Okay guys, here is the Algebra 2 Chapter 6 study guide worked out. I'm going to be kind of quick on this, so I apologize for the speed of my voice, but the good thing about this is you can play it back. Alright, so graph the function and clearly label the x-intercepts. What are the zeros of the function y equals x, x minus 3, and x minus 5? So looking at this function, I know that I have a 0 at x. I have a 0 when x minus 3 equals 0. So x equals 3. And then I set this one equal to 0. And so we have zeros at x equals 0, 3, and 5. Now, all of these are multiplicity 1, so I know all of these are going to be crossing the x-axis. Do you need to know all of that? No. Okay, but then it says graph the function and clearly label the x-intercepts. So those need to be clearly labeled. Then what you're going to do is go to your handy-dandy graphing calculator, and we're going to put in exactly what you see. So we have y equals x, open parentheses, x minus 3, close, open, x minus 5, close, and then graph that. And that's what you're going to do, okay? So you're going to take this here, and you're going to put a point at 0, 3, and 5. And then you're going to just sketch it like that. And that's going to be sufficient. You don't need to have anything big, grand, or anything like that. Okay, looking at number 2, what are the zeros of the function? List multiplicities, if any. And here we go. So I have f of x equals x to the 4th plus 2x cubed minus 3x squared. Okay, so looking at this one, I notice that each of these have an x squared in common. So that's my step 1. My first thing that I need to do is factor that out. That's going to leave me with x squared plus 2x minus 3. Then I need to see if I can factor this. And I can, because factors of, do the AC method, negative 3x squared, that are going to give me 2x. I can do 3 and 1, and in order for that to be positive, that would have to be positive, and that would have to be negative. So then I have x squared times x squared plus 3x minus x minus 3. Then we look at the first two and the last two. So you have x squared. I apologize for not paying attention to the screen. And then we have x squared and 3x have x in common, which gives me x plus 3. Negative x and negative 3 have negative 1 in common, giving me x plus 3. These are the same. So we have x squared times x plus 3 times x minus 1. Okay, now that we have this part figured out, we have to go and state the zeros and list the multiplicities. Okay, so we have to go through all of this to get to this before we can actually answer the question that we need to answer. So we set each of these equal to 0. You have x squared equal to 0, x plus 3 equals 0, and x minus 1 equals 0. That has a power of 2. That right there tells you it has multiplicity. So when we take the square root of both sides, you end up with x equals 0. 0 doesn't have a sign, so it's not plus or minus, it's just 0. But it has a multiplicity of 2, which means it touches and turns. This one, we have x is negative 3. It only had 1. It was a power of 1 there. So that's a multiplicity of 1, which means it crosses. We add 1 here. So that is going to be, again, a multiplicity of 1 up there. So that is going to cross. Okay? All right, so that's how we do number 2. Number 3, use synthetic division to find p of -3 for that expression. So we're being told to use synthetic division to find p of -3. That means this is the 0. We do not have to take the opposite sign. It's not an expression. It's just the 0. So I'm going to write this down here and then bring that up. So find p of -3 for p of x equals x to the 4th minus 9x cubed plus 7x squared plus 9x minus 3. All right. So using synthetic division to solve this one, the first thing I want to do is make sure everything is represented, and it is 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All right, so now I put in my coefficients, 1, -9, 7, 9, -3. Put in the backwards L. This number goes here. We're going to bring down the 1. Okay, so we bring down the 1. -3 times 1 is -3. -9 and -3 is -12. -3 times -12 is 36. 7 and 36 is 43. -3 times 43, I'm going to use the calculator because my brain is in 2 different places. So we've got 3 times 43 is 129. 9 minus 129 is -120. -3 times -120 is going to be 360. -3 and 360 is 357. So this is the answer because it said find p of -3. So this is what we are looking for in this one. This is using that remainder theorem. Okay. All right. Sorry, I paused it to try to prevent rambling. So now looking at number 4, write the polynomial in factored form. So I have this one here, x cubed minus x squared minus 6x. Each of these have an x in common. So that's the first thing that I'm going to do, is factor out that x, leaving me with x squared minus x minus 6. Then I need to find factors of -6 that are going to give me -1, right? Because we do the AC method. We've either got 1 and 6 or 2 and 3. And it's difference, so we know one's got to be positive, one's got to be negative. The larger term needs to be negative since this is negative. 1 and -6 would give me -5, so that can't be it. 2 minus 3 is -1, so there we go. So you've got x times x squared plus 2x minus 3x minus 6. So then we have x times, these two have x in common, giving me x plus 2. These two have -3 in common, and if I factor that out, it gives me x plus 2. These are common, so I have x times x plus 2 times x minus 3. And this would be the answer because it just said put it in factored form. Okay, I'm going to pause and write the next problem. Okay, looking at number 5, use synthetic division, divide -10x cubed minus 1175 plus 15x by x plus 5. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is make sure this is in standard form and everything is represented. This is not in standard form and not everything is there. So I would need to rewrite this. -10x cubed. Then I do not have an x squared term, so I'm going to go ahead and write plus 0x squared plus 15x minus 1175. Okay, so then I put this, just the coefficients, -10, 0, 15, -1175. Then because this is the expression, I need to either solve that for x or take the opposite. So that will be -5, right? Because x plus 5 equals 0 would give me x is -5. Okay, so now looking over here, we bring down the negative 10. Negative 5 times negative 10 is 50. 0 plus 50 is 50. Negative 5 times 50 is going to give me negative 250. 15 minus 250 is going to give me negative 235. And then I'm not even trusting my brain. 5 times 235 is going to give you 1175. Add those together, that gives you 0. So this is your remainder. This is the constant linear quadratic term. So then this, your answer should be negative 10x squared plus 50x minus 235. That would be the answer. Okay. Okay, number 6, find the zeros of the function, which is going to be the same thing that we did up here, but we don't have to list the multiplicities. So looking at number 6, we have x cubed plus 7x squared minus 18x. So we're going to divide an x out of everything here, leaving us with x squared plus 7x minus 18. Are there factors of negative 18 that will give us 7? So yes, and you could do the AC method if you wanted to. That's negative, so you know you're going to have a positive times a negative. 2 and 9, and to get the 7, that would have to be negative 2 and positive 9. Now, because this has a coefficient of 1, remember you can go directly to x times x minus 2, x plus 9. But if you feel more comfortable with doing it the other way, then you can go ahead and do it that way. Just know that it takes a little bit longer, but if that's where your comfort zone is, it's worth it. Okay, so then these two would have the x in common, leaving you with x minus 2, and these two have 9 in common, leaving you with x minus 2. And so then the x minus 2 is here, the x minus plus 9 is there, and then your x is here. So this would be the factored form, and I just remembered I'm looking for the zeros. So then I set each of these equal to 0. So then we have x equals 0, x equals 2, and x equals negative 9. And so these would be the answers. All right, let me take a look at number 7. Okay, so number 7 says to divide 4x cubed plus x squared minus x plus 2 by x plus 3 using long division and to show your work. So I've rewritten it. I know that doesn't necessarily look like divide, but that's what it's supposed to be. So we're going to put the divisor on the outside. Put this stuff underneath the sideways 7. All right, and then we're looking at the first term. What do I need to multiply to x to make it match 4x cubed? Well, that would be 4x squared. So 4x squared times x is going to give me 4x cubed. 4x squared times 3 is going to give me 12x squared. I subtract these. This minus this is 0. X squared minus 12x squared gives me negative 11x squared. Now I look at my x. What do I need to multiply it to make it match negative 11x squared? Well, that would be negative 11x. So now I distribute these. Negative 11x to x is negative 11x squared. Negative 11x times 3 is going to give me negative 33x. Subtracting this, we end up with 0, negative x minus a negative, so it's going to make that positive. 33x minus x is 32x, and then we bring down the 2. X goes into 32x 32 times. So 32 times x is 32x. 32 times 3 is 96. So now I subtract 32x from 32x, and that's going to give me 0. I subtract 96 from 2, and that's going to give me negative 94. This is my remainder. So my answer would be 4x squared minus 11x plus 32 with a remainder of negative 94. Now, oh, sorry. Remember that if you can't do long division, and let me rephrase that, you can do long division. If you don't remember how to do long division, or you second guess yourself, come back and solve this one doing synthetic division, because then you'll get at least half the credit. But if you can do synthetic division and then show me how you did long division, then you get full credit. Okay, just don't spend too much time on this problem. It's only one problem. It's 5 points, so it's not a huge deal. It is a huge deal if you have multiple, but if it's just one, no big deal. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop this one and pick up the others.